Welcome, Freeride family, to the Freeride World Tour podcast for the 2023 season. Presented by Peak Performance, the official ski wear partner of the Freeride World Tour, and Freeride World Tour sponsor Vibram. We give you confidence in every step on all terrain. And I'm Mark Warner, your host, so let's drop in. Hey, welcome back, Freeride family. My name is Mark Warner, and you may know me as the host of the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers, but I'm also a massive fan of the Freeride World Tour, and I am honored to be able to host Season 2 of the FWT Podcast. Today, I am joined by my co-host, the Freeride World Tour broadcast announcer, Mr. Derek Foose. We're recapping all the highlights from last year. We're diving into the big news announced last week, the merger between the Freeride World Tour and FIS, and we are getting hyped up for this season ahead. So if you're new to the podcast, please make sure you're subscribed with your favorite podcast app, and go check out freerideworldtour.com for all of your FWT needs. All right, let's get into it. All right, here we go. Season 2 of the Freeride World Tour podcast, episode 1 of season 2.
We're back, buddy. They let us do it again.
Yeah, no doubt, eh? This is great. Last year was super fun, and apparently we did something right, because we're back for season 2. Thanks to the Freeride World Tour for having faith in us, talking about the Freeride World Tour, which we love, and for Peak Performance and to Vibram for stepping up and enabling us to do this. So shout out to you guys, and big thank you and a big shout out to everybody who's listening right now who either just found us or listened last year, because if you didn't listen, well, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah, huge thanks to everyone wanting to know what's going on behind the scenes, hearing all the ins and outs and the kind of the facts and what you didn't see in the broadcast, what you didn't see in the show, what you didn't see on Instagram.
We've got the inside scoop on a lot of this stuff too, so that's why I think maybe they like it. So enough of that. Thank you, everybody. We're back. Let's get right into it. So this is the second season of the Freeride World Tour podcast. This episode is going to be basically a recap of last year. We're going to summarize last season just to get everybody refreshed and back up to speed, because it's been a little while. We're going to talk about the new schedule, the new Freeride World Tour Pyramid. Of course, the biggest news basically surrounding the Freeride World Tour is the merger with FIS, as well as some hype. We're going to hype up this new season. Yeah,
just getting fired up to do it all again. The athletes are psyched, the fans are psyched. I know everyone in the office in Lausanne is excited. It's a new season, new athletes, and some returning athletes. There's a lot going on, as always, and man, this time of year just gets me so fired up.
It's brand new, man. Yeah. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of things that are lined up, things we didn't expect, things that, it's the promise of a new year, which is exciting. So where should we start? Let's recap this last year.
Yeah, last year was nothing short of exciting, for sure. I mean, event to event to event, we had challenges, we had things that kind of took us by surprise. Snow conditions, we can't not talk about it. I mean, it was tough, and it got tougher and tougher and tougher. It started out pretty good in Baqueira in Spain. To be totally honest, it looked better than it skied. It was that kind of snow that on the show looked good. The athletes they did what they do. They made it look awesome.
The snow was probably the most consistent, the consistent part of last season. And consistent isn't necessarily a good thing in this term. And they dealt with it, right?
Yeah.
The professional athletes, I'll just say it sucked for them. Like, I felt so bad that they had to, the hands that they were dealt, they did an extremely good job dealing with what they were given.
Refrozen slush in Andorra and Vibram. We had sand.
In Vibram.
And then in Verbier, the old sand and the breakable crust. I mean, we watched Neil Willeman, our ace on the face, dig a tip into a rock and tumble. it mid-show, right? Like it was anything and everything, and those athletes just made it look. I mean, they are gods. They're mountain gods. What they do is just, it's why we're so engaged. It's why we have a podcast.
It's like when we go, like usually after, for those of you listening, after the event is done, every once in a while we'll get an opportunity to ski the face. I know you can do it in Kicking Horse. Some people can go ski up in Verbier. Like I've skied a couple of the faces after the comp is over. And I was like, holy crap, first time. Like you ski this with like just looking at it, and to do the things that they do gave me even more of an appreciation for their skills and like what they do, which is wild. Last year, weather windows. So within the Freeride World Tour, for those of you that know, but those of you who don't, there is usually about a week-long weather window at each event, right? You need a specific amount of time that you're hoping, okay, we're going to get maybe a little snow. Maybe we're going to get some clear weather. Maybe if there's a storm, maybe it only lasts for a few days. So you can either go at the beginning of the weather window, end of the weather window. You got that little leeway. Well, last year, it seemed like a significant portion of the events, they had to go outside of the weather window just because that's what Mother Nature was dictating.
Yeah, you need enough sun during the day for the broadcast to function and also for the safety helicopters to be able to fly. And so much of the time we would arrive at the event and they would say, hey, inspection, face check is today, and we're going to compete tomorrow, because after that, either it gets too warm, it gets too cloudy, there's
a sandstorm.
Yeah, exactly.
Plague of locusts.
Something's happening that isn't gonna be conducive to an event. So every single time, just about, it felt like we were running right at the start of the weather window, which just puts the athletes right on the back foot immediately. They have less time to do their face check, to dial in their lines. We're moving venues. I mean, a Kicking Horse, we moved all the way across the resort.
Right.
Anything and everything that could get thrown at them got thrown at them last year. And you know what? It still worked. They still gave us a show. I mean, in Verbier, that was our last one. So just, we got to retouch on that. We had 2 Swiss winners in the ski categories.
Hometown, right?
Yeah, Sybille Blangeon at home, with also her first FWT win of her life. And Maxime Chablot with the win in Verbier and then locking down the title. I mean, the Swissies that night were going off. They loved it, seeing 2 hometown heroes. We had Victor De La Rue uncharacteristically get cut, from the tour. He didn't make the cut after the 3. Yeah. And they wildcarded him on because, he's got that former champion glow about him. And it's hard to have an Extreme Verbier without a De La Rue in it. Right. And he took that wild card and ran with it and took the win on the Bec d'Arros. So hard to argue with the wild card when the man wins. And then we had that crazy battle for the title between Tiffany Perta and Erica Vikander. It came down to the very, very, very end, and it really was, even in the booth, confusing on what was going on because the point spread was so thin.
Right.
With Tiffany coming out on top.
2 years in a row, we were teasing you about your math skills.
Yeah, well, that's not my job as somebody behind the scenes. And honestly, when it comes in through the headset, they're like, Tiffany took it. I'm like, really? But it was, okay, no, sure, really?
Right.
And
it's funny, 2 years in a row, because the year before it was the Hedvig and Elizabeth, right?
Yep.
Which is exciting. Like I love that. The fact that it comes down right to the wire, right to the end of the season, which, like, it's you can't get more exciting than that.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
it's awesome, and you that's what we want. We want it to be intense right to the end, and for the athletes to be, putting on their best at the Bec d'Arros, at the Extreme Verbier, and we got what I think is a whole set of extremely worthy tour champions, world champions last year. Maxime Chablot, brand new to the Freeride World Tour,
dominated.
Incredible first season. I can't think of another first season like that maybe since Candide, honestly. I mean, that's a big comparison, and I recognize those ski boots are hard to fill. I'm not saying Maxime Chablot is Candide Dovex, but he had a great season, and he took the win in his rookie season. Jess Hodder, I mean, she went win, die.
Let's not use the word die. Let's just say crash.
Right, yeah. She did some crazy crashing. Yeah, no,
but it was like she was like, it was either I'm 100% or I'm like I'm all in or I'm all out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I'm going for it. Like there was that one crash where she got hung up and then came down and she landed on her pack. I think her shovel blade was in her pack.
Yeah, in Spain.
Yeah, and she landed like off the ledge on her back and out. And I remember watching, thinking, "Oh God, oh no, no, no!" And she got up, and she was fine.
Yeah, and then the highlight reel crash in
Tomahawk.
Run 2 at Vibram, which had like millions of views by the end of the week.
That brought a lot of attention to the Freeride World Tour.
Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
And then you had Blake Moeller taking the title for snowboard men with just, he was, again, super solid performance. Every time he really needed to step up, he did. And Tiffany Pertin, French rookie, incredible battle with Erica Vikander all season long and squeaking it in at the end in Verbier. So 4 champions, those crowns are now already in the past. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the mantle, but it's...
Do you think of the 4? Do you think repeats? Do you think any of them is going to be tough to repeat?
Is it possible?
Yeah, obviously it's possible.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the thing about the Freeride World Tour. There's not a person in the field that couldn't be champion if the season goes their way.
Right.
Every single one of them has that talent. Every single one of them, I guarantee you, right now is having a hard time falling asleep night after night after night because they're nervous, but they're also thinking about, if it comes down to me in Verbier and I do it, what's that going to feel like?
It's interesting.
They can all do it, and those guys can all certainly repeat.
It's interesting because you just made me think of something. Because I've known athletes in the past that, you said if everything goes right. Well, I've known a bunch of athletes in the past that things just didn't go right. Like you said, like Victor got cut, right? Well, it's Victor de la Rue. Like other athletes over the past years, I'm like, that person just didn't quite put it together. They either caught a rock or they just, the fate wasn't on their side. But when on the opposite, you don't quite think of it as the same way. You know what I mean? Like when someone doesn't succeed, you're like, oh, they got dealt a poor hand, right? But when someone does succeed, you're like, oh, it's all their ability, and like you don't really talk about it luck as much on the successful side of things.
Yeah, well, you're also not going to say they didn't succeed because they sucked.
That's true.
They're all really talented.
Right.
They all have the skill set to do it. There's a huge aspect of this that we don't talk about that much, which is the mental game. How screwed on is your head in the start gate at every one of these events? Mm-hmm. And that comes into play for sure. And you see, the athletes are right now, and specifically, I guess more the last few months, the physical training, we know they're fit, they're in the gym, they're running, they're mountaineering, doing all the stuff that gets them strong. But the head game is just as important. We don't talk about it as much. Some of them train it. Some of them are working with, with sports psychiatrists or psychologists or counselors and trainers and all kinds of stuff to make sure that part is dialed. Because if your head is screwed on right and you have the skills, then the freeride world is your oyster. And the best is when all of them are on their game, because then we get the show with the we all want.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're all here for, I think. So yeah, really exciting to see both the champions and the ones that weren't champions who want to be coming back firing for this year.
So what are some more of the individual highlights and maybe lowlights? Obviously, we had the first landed double backflip from Max Palm.
Huge moment. It wasn't the first one thrown, but it was the first one landed.
Thanks to Reina.
Yeah, our resident historian.
Yeah, exactly. He was watching, and he was straight onto YouTube or straight onto Instagram, being like, "Well, as a matter of fact, it was actually done. I think it was Snowbird. Someone did it in Snowbird back in the day, but this is the first one that was landed." Because we kept, everyone's like, "This is the first one. It's the first one." And he's like, "Well, actually, no."
Yeah. So thank you, Reina, for keeping us honest. He knows more about every single run that has happened in the last 15 years of the Freeride World Tour.
And remembers it all, too.
Remembers all of it.
Yeah.
He's got such a great memory for it. And if you get a chance to listen to him tell the stories about, previous comps, or he can remember everybody's run. He can remember the anomalies, the bobbles, the glory, all of it. It's so cool.
I think we need to do a spin-off podcast with Reina.
Yeah, René Barkery's Freeride World Tour history.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I'm stoked he's back on the tour this year.
Yeah, so Max did the first landed one and the second landed one. He did another one at Kicking Horse off the same feature that we saw Maxime Chablot do a Cork 7 off. So the freestyle, really, really picking up steam
That's a
across
good
the
point,
board.
because last year, based on conditions, led towards more of a freestyle kind of season, right?
Time.
There wasn't as much. Like, I know a couple people said at the Kicking Horse event, well, there wasn't really any big mountain. There was no big airs or anything. It was like a freestyle competition, right? And that seems to be kind of the way things have been shifting in the last couple of years. Now, is that just a sign of the times, the evolution of the sport, or is it a little bit of the snow conditions or the conditions of the event week? What do you think it is?
I think it's all of the above. If we go back a few years to some events with spectacular conditions, we were still seeing big tricks being thrown. I think what we're seeing is more well-rounded skill sets in the riders qualifying onto the tour, and that's giving them the opportunity to do tricks in places we didn't used to see tricks, which, I mean, to me, as a fan of this, as a spectator of this, I love it. I mean, think back a few years, Marcus Eder doing a nose butter on the Bec de Ross. That, if you went back 10 years and told me you're going to see somebody do a nose butter off one of these cliffs, I'd be like, you're no way.
Remember, what was it, Isaac Freeland that did that crazy...
Yeah, like switch underflip
at the top of the run. Where was that?
That was in Andorra. Yeah, that was in Ordino and Arcalis. Yeah, so I think that's what we're seeing is the skill sets of the riders are more well-rounded than ever. If we have big snow at one of these events, we're going to see the real senders get to put their art on the canvas as well. But it's going to be hard, and all you got to do is talk to Reina or talk to Navarro about the difficulty of being the pure free rider these days, who doesn't have the bag of tricks. If Ross Tester is going to go just as big with a 7, or Maxime Chablot is going to go just as big with a backflip or Max Palm as you would go without it, I mean, if you're a judge, that's better, no?
Exactly.
It is what it is, and who's upset about evolution? You can't be. It's old man shaking his fist at a cloud, right? Like you can't.
Simpsons reference.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
you can't be upset about it. It's awesome, and it's exciting to see. The athletes are more athletic. They're more skilled. They're more dynamic. They're so comfortable in the mountains, in
stronger,
these environments.
more prepared.
Yeah, all of it.
Started earlier in their life, most likely.
Big time, yeah. A lot of them are products of Freeride clubs and junior programs and the junior event series, both in Region 1 and 2 in North America, Europe, New Zealand. We got South America now, Freeride South America kicking things off big time this year. So it's only getting better, and I mean, as a freeride fan, that's what we want. That's what I want to see. I want to see more action. I want to see more landed runs. That stuff just, it gets me so fired up.
I love how you're the most stoked on this out of anybody I know. You are definitely in the right job, man.
Yeah, so that was cool. I mean, like you said, we had Max Palm with the double, and then the next one, we had a bunch of young athletes winning their first events, right. Ski women especially. Olivia McNeil, Lily Bradley, Sybille Blangeon. There were 5 events last year. 3 of them were won by first-time winners, and 2 of them were pure rookies. Olivia, kind of not really a rookie. She had the year before, but she did, she got injured. But Lily and Sybille were full-on rookies, and they both took wins last year. So the youth is ascending right now, and it's pretty exciting to see. Another
notable moment, was Eimar's crash in Verbier. The line he took was bonkers. I think we touched on it at the last episode. Yeah. The snow conditions weren't probably quite there for it. He's back. He's coming back this year. Knowing him, he's going to be stronger than ever. He's healed up. He's probably learned a lot from it as well. And I, for one, am really happy that we're going to have him on the tour again.
Yeah, me too. I mean, having Eimar there is critical, honestly. Guys like that they're showing us what's possible in the mountains. He's looking at the mountain in a totally different way than anybody else. And what I believe we need for Eimar is the right snow conditions, and then he's gonna blow our hats off. Because he just sees lines that other people don't see. He looks at things in a way that don't even make sense. to normal humans. But he is recovered plus, and he's taken that offer that FWT handed him of the wild card, and you said it. I mean, you nailed it. He's learned a ton for sure. He knows that decision making matters. It's not just like do the gnarliest thing, but do the gnarliest thing that you can land,
right?
That you can land.
And not only that, he's just important for the tour. Like, he was instrumental in the Becerra event because that's his kind of hometown, his home hill. Just the Freeride World Tour is better, stronger with him in it.
100%. Yeah. He brought that event to Becerra Barret. They love him. I mean, he's on rock star level.
Oh, absolutely,
in Spain.
So you're saying
it's wild just seeing the level of fame that he has in the mountains in Spain and in Barcelona and Madrid. Like, he's a well-known public figure in Spain, and Andorra. So having him involved is huge, and I can't wait to see him on snow in competition again. Like, that wild card is a total no-brainer.
So moving on, there was some huge news last week that brought up a lot of opinions and a lot of attention, that the Freeride World Tour is now merged with FIS, or FIS has purchased the Freeride World Tour, however you want to approach it. And the FWT Sport Pyramid has kind of changed a little, tightened up. How would you explain that?
Yeah, I think tightened up is a good way to say it. The Sport Pyramid, it was confusing in some ways. You had all these different acronyms. You had the FJT and the FWQ.
So the funnel to the Freeride World Tour.
Yeah, and so basically now you have the umbrella, which is Freeride World Tour, and under that umbrella falls all of the other aspects of freeride in Region 1 specifically. So FWT juniors, that's everyone from 10 to 18 years old, all the kids, and there are so many junior events. It's just growing.
They
and
sold
growing
out like in the first couple hours.
Yeah, big time. And then you've got the FWT qualifiers, so that's 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars. Those are adult freeride events. From grassroots to those who are really making a push.
So it's no longer FWQ, it's FWT qualifiers.
Yeah.
So it just makes it a little bit more clear.
Yeah, exactly. The main, I think, function of this was for clarity. And then from the qualifiers, there will be a cut, and those who make the cut go to the FWT Challenger Tour. So the Challenger Tour,
which is what they started last year.
Yeah, last year they called it FWT Finals, but it was a little confusing because people thought the finals was just the last event. So this is a series. It's a tour. It's the FWT Challenger Tour. There's going to be one in Region 1, which is Europe. There's going to be one in Region 2, which is North America. 3 events in each, and your champions from the Challenger Tour go to the Freeride World Tour, the pros, the big leagues, the show.
So to tighten it up a little bit, people that don't make the cut are able to go down to the Challenger Tour to then compete to get back on the tour.
People that don't make the cut on the Freeride World Tour.
Right, and then those that are on their way up through the qualifiers, they can win that to make their way to the world for the Freeride World Tour. So basically, people who are on the tour who didn't make the cut, it's their opportunity to not spend an entire year getting back it. They can be like, all right, I had a couple bad events, hit a rock, whatever.
Way she goes.
I can get back on it.
Yep, exactly. And then you have your best qualifier athletes and your cut tour athletes meeting in the Challenger Tour.
So it's a true representation of who should be there.
Absolutely. And last year was the first go at it. Last year it was FWQ Finals. This year it's under a new name, but the series, the system, the structure of it is the same. And you saw it kind of play out in a few different ways. You saw a few young guns hit it hard and make it, and you saw a few people who were cut from the Freeride World Tour make it back on and not have to go through the whole rigmarole of an entire season on the qualifiers to do it. So, in my opinion, after seeing it go for a year, I think it's totally valid. I think it's a great way to do it. We see it in other sports, and I just love the idea that you're seeing your qualifier athletes and your cut tour athletes in the same place, head to head, for those spots on the tour the following year. So back to that. Challenger Tour is going to be super exciting. Again, last year it came right down to the wire. I guarantee it will this year again. And we've got a Challenger Tour or Challenger Series event in Whistler this year.
Oh, for real?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right
yeah.
where we are
yeah,
right
where
now.
we are speaking to you. So that's super exciting for us in Worcester to have high-level
When is
adult
that?
freeride. That's going to be in early March.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you need an on-hill announcer?
Probably.
All
Yeah.
right,
Get in there.
Get me in there. I'm in. So that's the new kind of. It's same but different. The structure. It's a little bit more. It's a little easier to understand. Little more clarity. Like they said, last year was the first year of the Challenger Tour. It seemed to work. They're bringing that back. So right before you explained the new categorization of the pyramid, I did mention that the Freeride World Tour has merged with FIS. FIS has purchased the Freeride World Tour. And if you were on social media, you would see that a lot of people had a lot of opinions on what that is and what it's going to mean for the tour moving forward. I personally was trying to stay as neutral as possible. So I had a talk with the CEO and founder of the Freeride World Tour for the last 16 years, Nicolas Hale Woods, and had him give me all of the information. What does this mean? How are things going to change? Are they going to change? So this is a snippet of that conversation, and let's get into that right now. All right, welcome, Nico. This is the first episode of the new season for the Freeride World Tour podcast, and you started off this year with some huge news. The Freeride World Tour has announced a merger with FIS, which is pretty massive news. And as you know, there was a lot of opinions and a lot of energy around the announcement. So I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to come on and explain a little bit more in depth and perhaps answer some of those questions, answer some of those concerns, but also give us some information as to what we can really look forward to with the merging of those two groups. So first question, I guess, is why did this happen?
We decided to merge with FIS for a couple of reasons. There's four. The first one is we've been organizing Freeride World Tour for 15 years with an organic growth, meaning no help from any outside bodies or investors. We've created a pretty cool product with a big audience, which is 90% dependent on sponsorship from resorts, from regions, from corporate partners, sponsors. And this works. This could work in the future, but by definition, there's a huge competition out there between event organizers that are searching for sponsorship dollars, and it's a fight. We will have a very good announcement in the months to come with a new big sponsorship, but basically it is tough and hard, and we believe that the partnership or the ownership by FIS of Freeride World Tour, but the partnership in the sense of building the property together is a better solution than continuing on our own. To make Freeride World Tour stronger and to make Freeride World Tour stronger in the long term, so that what we've built doesn't suddenly disappear. We're far from being there, but it is a risk when you are a small company in that big world. So the network of FIS in regards to, and that's the first point, the networking in regards to contracting new destinations, new mountains, new countries or resorts that are willing to associate with Freeride World Tour at a World Tour level or at a Challenger, Qualifier, Junior level, all levels. We will be in a better position to contact these resorts if we do it with FIS. The second reason is media distribution. Next year, as we said, nothing will change. It will be the exact same channels with no fees to be paid to watch Freeride World Tour. And I think that's an important point. When we started our discussions with FIS, the first thing the FIS told us was, we don't want to break what you've made. It works, it's a good product, we don't want to break it. So we are going to continue with the same distribution and media production, and FIS may bring additional distribution that we will decide to take on if it's compatible with what we have. And that should happen. So second point, a bigger reach. Third point is access to some companies, marketing directors, to look at the option of new sponsorship. It's easier when you speak to a company that is already a partner of FIS to speak directly to the right person and to show him what the opportunities are. And that should help. And then the fourth point is the grassroots for riders. Being part of a recognized sports federation first positions your sport as more legit. I've heard a rider, Sybille Blangeon, saying, now people will consider us as real sportsmen or sportswomen, just because there is still a lot of people, and I'm not speaking of the core audience, that is looking at freeriding as, funny guys that are not really taking it seriously. Which is not the case, which was maybe the case 20 years ago. But when you look at the top riders today, they are professional athletes and they deserve a recognition. So legitimacy and then access to support from different bodies. In Switzerland, when you are part of a federation that is recognized by the National Olympic Committee, you can ask for some financial support when you are an elite athlete in the rankings.
So the athletes will now be able to approach the country of their home origin and then potentially get more funding.
Yes. And then, but that will be at a later stage, have access to some coaching facilities, etc. This is not defined yet, but it's a starting point. So those 4 points: 1, network; 2, media; 3, marketing; 4, status of athletes. And then there's a fifth one, which is one day having freeride in the Olympics. People have their opinion about this, but what is unarguable is that for sports like snowboard and ski freestyle, for BMX, for skateboarding, for surfing and climbing more recently, having an Olympic window for 2 weeks does give a push to those sports. And when I say to those sports, it's to all stakeholders, from athletes to the brands of the industry, to destinations, to media associated, and to the whole sport in general. And that will be my last word, it doesn't kill the spirit. We have now athletes that can make a decent living in those sports, which is not the case yet in freeriding, far from it. And
right.
and that's one of the goals.
Before I kind of disseminate into that, I've heard in the past that they've approached you, or you've had discussions with them in past years. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. I've been in contact with them for 10 years now. And
wow.
And what people don't know is that, or most of the people don't know, is that in June 21, a new president was elected at FIS. And his vision and his management is is quite different from his predecessors. When we spoke 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years ago with FIS, it was clear that there was no way our respective models could merge. The last year's talk and agreement we have with FIS today is different from the past. And that's why we decided to make that move.
And has this been the personal goal of yours to bring it to that more recognized international level?
Yes.
You've done a great job with what it is so far. And I think that's why people had so many opinions. And you do say, Freeride World Tour is going to stay the same this year, but I know down the road, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, will it still be able to keep that spark, that magic, that charm that it has? And I think that's what people are worried about, is having, based on history, is having FIS come in and start doing things their way, strict and rigid, where it basically takes a little bit of the fun out. And if you agree with that as an honest statement of where people are coming from,
absolutely.
How do you see things moving forward with that?
I fully understand where the upset people come from. I worked for the International Snowboard Federation in 97, 98, when it was destroyed by FIS taking over snowboarding and bringing it their way to the Olympics. So it's not like there's no reference there. And most of the people being upset have this case in mind, or this reference. Now, I cannot guarantee anything, but what I can say is that our contract and the vision and the way the new management of FIS is doing, I believe we have the conditions to keep that spirit, to keep the rules that are defined by riders, keep the judging defined by riders, keep the ranking and format system defined by riders. When I say defined by riders, it's the Pro Freeriders Board that we consult to define those different rules. And I think that only time will tell if I'm right or I'm wrong today. But there was enough elements for the team and for myself to decide to go for it.
Okay, hopefully that cleared some things up. The full conversation, we're going to release that as its own independent thing. So this is just a snippet, and if you want to go listen to that, we're going to release it as a kind of an extended interview. So keep your eyes open for that. What are your thoughts, Derek?
I mean, you said it before. The reaction was all over the place. There was super positive, there was incredibly negative, and everything in between. What there was that really struck me was a lot. There was a lot, and that shows
everybody had an opinion.
Yeah, and there's a passion out there for this, which is in and of itself, regardless of this topic, is kind of awesome. People care, and they care deeply about. It
gets people engaged.
Yeah, about the sport of freeride. Like, it matters to people, and I love that. It seems on the face of it that there's not going to be a lot of change for a while, at least. It sounds like FIS wants to be involved. It seems that there's some positives in terms of
they want to be involved, but they're still going to let the FWT kind of run independently.
Totally. And I think, at least again on face value, there's a recognition there that this is already awesome. They don't need to come in and Elon Musk at Twitter this and just, you know what I mean? Like, completely clean house, change everything. Like, this is going well. Everyone who's involved is doing a good job. Fans are engaged. You guys are out there. You're watching it. You're loving it enough to put thousands of comments down on an Instagram post in every which way in every direction. So the passion's there. The sport is healthy and strong, and we'll see where it goes. Definitely, if nothing else, it's certainly interesting and exciting. And if things play out the way I think everyone is hoping, then there's going to be bigger exposure, more marketing, more eyes on Freeride, which is, to me, it's the one thing about this sport that's always kind of been a bit weird. And you see it in places like Spain. People who don't watch Freeride all the time really should. I mean, the imagery that comes out of this is spectacular. The athletes are so skilled. They're so talented. And the places that it happens, you know, I mean, it's the most beautiful places in the world, and it's some of the most incredible scenery, just the footage, you know, those Cineflex shots from the heli when they're wrapping around the start gate on the Bec de Ros, and it's just a knife ridge that these athletes are standing on, and it drops away in every direction just down into the abyss. I mean, those images should be seen by everyone. So if they can help with that, cool. You know, that's gonna be good, and I mean,
could potentially open up new financial assistance for the athletes through their countries too. Now that it's part of a
it's a bit more.
There's lots. I guess it's just to be determined, really.
Yeah.
So I think really the best plan of action moving forward is just to see how it goes, right? I know a lot of people some people were hesitant, some people were stoked, a lot of people were upset about it. Change is scary,
always,
but you can't do anything about it. So you're just gonna have to kind of go with the flow and keep an open mind is the best thing I can suggest.
Yeah, and this year, I mean, Nicolas has said it really clearly. Nothing changes on snow. Mm-hmm. On snow, at the events, it's all the same. It's business as usual. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep you posted. I'm sure you guys will all stay involved as well in keeping your eyes on things. But this year, it's going to be business as usual for Freeride World Tour. And we'll see.
Are there certain things that you want to see this year? Things you're hoping for that we haven't touched upon?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I'm hoping for. I think the thing that I'm hoping for the most is sunny powder conditions at every event.
Snow, baby. They've paid their dues last year. It's time for some good conditions.
And to be totally honest, I mean, we saw a little bit of it here and there last year. I'm gonna single out Maël Olivier in Spain. I want to see the Huckers get to show us what they've got, what their spirit is, because we didn't see a ton of big, gigantic sends on the tour last year because the conditions were not.
It's hard
right
landing on literal sandpaper.
Totally, yeah, and you know, Maël got punished for it. He did a really, really big error. I mean, I watched the replay of that comp not too long ago, or his run anyway, came up on an Instagram reel, and it was. I mean, Anna and I were in disbelief that he was heading towards that, you know,
right.
Because there was a point where it became clear that's where he was going. There was no other way,
right?
And he pointed it off that thing, and he backslapped hard because he went so big, and the conditions were just not prime for an air that big. But if we get conditions that are right for it, I want to see a bit of that. I mean, I don't want to see reckless. No hope sending. Mm-hmm. I want to see some of those, you know, those old school, like.
Do you think that's a thing, being like they spent a full season just with pretty meager conditions, that once you get a good day, people are just going to be like, oh, now it's my turn? Do you think that I know everybody they're all there for a reason, because they've been able to control themselves. You know, you don't get to the Freeride World Tour by just throwing yourself into the ether. Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
But do you think there's going to be that little bit of stoke where it might be like, oof?
100% yes. All you got to do, go to Ross Tester's Instagram and watch what he did last week off some pointy nose at Alta. It's absurd. It's a 360 to doom, but into neck deep snow, and like people are hungry for it, and I don't mean us as spectators. The riders.
The riders really want to perform to the fullest of their abilities, and just be able to open it up full throttle, which they haven't been able to do for a year.
It's been very strategic. What can I do here? What can I do with this?
So it's time to let them off the leash.
Let them off the leash.
Yeah. I'm personally looking forward to is we just got a couple of them, some more Derek-isms last year. So I didn't tell you, I just kept hearing them. Like, hey dude, I got some more Derek-isms, and you just kind of shook your head at me. Let me ask you this, did you adjust your style when you were doing the event to be like, oh, Mark's going to clip this for sure?
No way. No. I honestly, I'm just reacting to what I see.
I love it.
And I know Anna's the same. And I'm really psyched to get back in the booth with Anna. I thought we had a great vibe last year, and the team behind the FWT, you won't find a harder working group of people just pulling these events off. I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier about how difficult it was a lot of the time last year. The fact that it gets done is a product of the people doing it. Mm-hmm. It really is a testament to the passion, the care, the skill, all of those things of the people behind the scenes, the people that aren't on TV, that are.
Oh man, that's it. We're gonna do. We're gonna obviously do all the recaps this year. Recaps of all the 5 episodes. We're gonna do a couple pre-competition episodes like this one. The next one will be focusing on the athletes, the wild cards, the returnees. That's what the next episode will be.
The rookies.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
And then in between, we're going to do some special features, kind of more behind-the-scenes stuff on what it takes to put on an event. What happens behind the scenes? What are people doing? What are people working on? Because if most people watching really knew what happened behind the scenes, they would be blown away. Everything from the amount of content they're able to put out after event that quickly to being able to set up an event on a crazy mountain slope and then the very next day take it over to another ridge in minus 30 degree temperature. All of the comms, everything. Like it's really, really impressive. There's very few other organizations that even come close to being able to what they do. So I'm going to be putting out kind of some special features. I think we might touch on the judging a little bit to give people a little bit better of an idea of exactly how runs are judged and information onto all of the criteria, so that when you're watching, you can be like, oh, why did that? Instead of before when you're like, well, why did that happen? Now you can be like, oh, okay, I understand it because there's this little detail that I wasn't aware of before.
Mm-hmm, yeah, the more you know. And yeah, it's so true. I mean, those events, those broadcasts are coming from the side of a mountain, often in the backcountry. Mm-hmm. There's no hardwired internet. There's no.
They tried last year where they ran a cable down like halfway down the slope of the mountain. I think they might be introducing some Starlink?
Yeah, Starlink.
Speaking of Elon Musk, I think they may be bringing in Starlink for maybe the Golden event, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool, yeah.
Which would
jumping
be really
on
cool.
The technology, but it really is impressive the whole setup that goes into it, and the fact that it's coming at you from the backcountry with satellite links and stuff, and just an unbelievable amount of work and dedication. What there isn't is a lot of sleep leading up to these events. I mean, people are
or after, yeah.
Well, yeah,
During.
that too. But it's cool, and I'm looking forward to hearing from on these special features about what's going on behind the scenes to pull these things off. Because the thing that kind of breaks my heart sometimes is and this is just a product of the world we live in now, but like people on Instagram and Facebook and stuff going off about how this isn't good or that isn't good or the quality. Like if they got a chance to come on site and see how hard it is when it's minus 25 and it's blowing sideways and tents are blowing over and equipment's getting destroyed, to pull it off, it really is just an incredible feat of engineering and just
a
work
testament.
and passion.
That's just a testament to how good they are at it, because you're so used to seeing this high quality event that when it's not at the exact standard because some crazy, event of nature happens, you're like, oh, it's not as good as it was last week or whatever. You know what I mean? Well, that's almost a compliment to have people complain when it's, because they're the caliber and the bar they set is so unbelievably high. It just speaks volumes for what they can do. So
keep your compliments coming, then I guess.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
the trolls.
So so I personally, one of the reasons I'm really excited about these kind of little, we haven't decided exactly what they're going to be. As the season goes, they'll kind of fall into place. But I'm just going to go and try and steal all their secrets. I'm looking to get in there and just be like, how does this work? Where does that happen? What do you use for this? Where does that plug in?
What does this button do?
Yeah. I'm going to go in and steal all their secrets. and we're going to share them with you.
So we're going to Kicking Horse. First stop, January 13th to 18th. That's the window. And then straight over to the Pyrenees block. First stop, Akira Barret in Spain. That's going to be the second time we've been there. Last year, it was the first time we were there for Freeride World Tour, and couldn't have been more welcoming. I mean, it was just incredible. It was one of the highlight events of the year, one of the highlight events of ever. I mean, so cool. And we touched on it before, but Aymar Navarro pretty much single-handedly making that happen, just muscling it as he does into existence, and certainly now already an extremely popular stop on tour. Then we were right away back-to-back Ordino Arcolis in Andorra. That's Feb 4th to 9th, and that's the cut. So heavy comp there in Andorra with the cut looming, and as we said, the ones who don't make that cut are on to the Challenger Tour. And those that do head to Vibram, we get almost a 5-week break in the middle, which is kind of nice. The riders can go film, they can recover, the shin band can heal from a pretty intense block of competition. And then March 11th to 17th, so it's a bit over a month in between Ordino in Andorra and Vibram, and that's got that 2-run feature. You know, it's the only one that we do it on the tour. And last year it was so sick in Vibram for the riders to have 2 runs. Added some pressure, added some intensity for sure. Looking forward to that one. We saw some fireworks basically from riders who didn't put down a sparkling first run, who made it up in the second run. Riders who greased it on the first run and then made the eternal highlight reel of tomahawking on run number 2. And then we go to the grand final. The Extreme Verbier is brought to us by Yeti this year, which is cool to have them on board. And we're deciding titles again. I mean, we're dipping into the future there, but March 25th to April 2nd in Verbier, it all comes down to that. So the riders that make the cut, I mean, there's more points, there's more intensity, there's more pressure. The Bec de Ross never disappoints. It's always exciting and it's always incredibly intense. So big season in store for us, just top to bottom, end to end.
Awesome. Well, I'm fired up. We should probably turn this off, because if we don't, we're gonna keep talking for hours and hours like we usually do. We usually set up this podcast and we talk for like 2 hours, and then we do it and we talk for another couple hours after about the Freeride World Tour, but we'll spare you all of that. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the new season, second season of the Freeride World Tour podcast. Hopefully we were able to shake off the rust in this episode. Stay tuned. We've got the next episode coming up just after the new year. We'll be highlighting the athletes as we mentioned, and then we'll be getting right into the event recaps, which is, I think, where we really get into it.
Yeah, exciting times. Freeride World Tour 2023. Season 2 of the podcast, Mark. So it's awesome. I'm psyched to be back in the mix.
Right on, buddy. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure, if you've listened to this whole episode and you're stoked, make sure you're subscribed with your favorite podcast app, and go to the freerideworldtour.com to get all the information about the FWT, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.
This has been a Redmark Media production.